Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a special address, and as we are talking about leveraging on technology, especially in this ICT age, and especially when we have entered the SMAC era, the Smart Mobility, Analytics and Cloud Converging, we are going to be looking into more of the analytics here, the role which analytics is playing towards enabling and empowering the CFO today. Data visualization, unlocking hidden business insights to drive profit. I would like to invite here our speaker, Mr. Prashant Dutta. He's Senior Consultant, Visual Analytics and Visual Statistics, SAS India. Once again, a request, ladies and gentlemen, we are going ahead now with our special address and special presentation. Please be seated. Request your kind attention and consideration. Thank you.
So, a very good afternoon to everyone. What we are going to do over the next 20 minutes is give you a glimpse of what we at SAS believe, how analytics is now going to basically empower and enable the CFO and the CFO's office to basically leverage on data and drive your business insights based on data. Right? To start with, what I want to basically give you a glimpse of is why is visualization so important. Right? So what you see in front of you right now is something that was made in the early 19th century. This was done by Charles Maynard, wherein he basically wanted to show a depiction of Napoleon's conquest into Russia. The simple graph basically gives you 6 measures. It basically tells you the number of people or the number of soldiers who had started, which is depicted by the lighter line. When they reached Moscow, the depletion in the troops, and by the time they reach back, you only see a fraction of these people coming in. The troop also tells you things like the latitude and the longitude information that the troops basically traveled, right? So there are 6 different measures which this one single visualization captures, and this was developed in 1912. If I have to represent the same facts on a paper or on a book, this would basically get into pages, but this one single visualization basically captures the entire power. Now, keeping this in mind, what are the industry experts now saying, right? So we've been speaking, or rather we've been hearing a lot of our panelists, industry experts, leaders, and most of them have basically resounded what the industry experts are also saying, right? We believe that today, when SAS, or let it be data analytics, the CFO has to be empowered because his role has moved just beyond, balance sheets and more into analyzing data and looking at data and driving, strategies based on this data. Keeping this in mind, technological advancements have to be at the forefront. When you get into technological advancements, you also have to understand how is it going to benefit your business users, right? Gone are the days when you had specialists, you had your IT, your statisticians driving analytics for you. The need of the hour is that the business user starts using data and he starts basically going through data and basically understanding how is it that he's going to help, right? Now, it's not just going to be data, it's not just going to be analysis, it's also going to be about how data can be used to predict your future. And future being unpredictable, it has to be scenario based, right? So it can't just simply be forecasting your numbers, but it has to be developed in the front by taking scenario based planning into considerations as well, right? Now, how do we substantiate this? So there are numerous surveys that have been conducted globally. What we can see is 98% of CFOs in UK are already talking about how data is becoming extremely important for them to run their businesses on a daily basis. 20% of them have actually included this as part of their balance sheet, right? So this features as a line item in their balance sheet. What people are also saying is that 73% of people who were surveyed by the Harvard Business Review are already saying that they are seeing benefits using data. 52% are saying that the productivity has increased. 45% are saying that they are taking new decisions based on data insights, right? Now, what is also happening is there is now creating a shift in mindset, right? So gone are the days when everything was centralized. IT was the custodian of data. IT was creating your BI and your dashboards, and IT was releasing this out to you. The time is where every single person working for an organization has to be empowered with data. they need to understand what data is doing for them. They need to understand how are they impacting their business, right? So gone are the days when only one or single entity within the organization was looking at data. It is now becoming decentralized, which then calls for the agility of the product that you're going to be using, right? So I don't want to get into codes. I don't want to get into IT development. It's simple, agile products which have a nice GUI where you just drag and drop your numbers and see what your numbers are trying to tell you. Now, keeping this in mind, what you will have to understand is, depending on your organization, where they are, what kind of data you have, you would basically start looking at where do you want to move in the competitive advantage space, and how is it that you're going to use the intelligence on the data to basically get there. You might start with as small as a simple dashboard, which gives you a view of the health of the organization. But what you also want to do next is understand where things are working for you, where things are not going. That's what brings you to the ad hoc analysis part. Now, when you start analyzing your data, what you also want to understand is slice and dice through it and understand what segments work for you, what geographies work for you. If it's a services-based industry, what is it that, how is it that your customers are basically relying on the services that you're offering? Again, it has to have a nice alerting or a trigger monitoring aspect as well. It has to be so intelligent that you don't have to open something up, but it can pass you feeds. You also need to start getting into a little bit of predictive side, which is the advanced places in the analytics, wherein you start analyzing some predictive models to churn your data. You start forecasting, you start predictive modeling, and finally you have optimized ways of your revenue and expenses coming into your picture. Now, how do you do this, right? So like I said, gone are the days where you were only relying on what kind of data is doing what for you. What you have to keep in mind is, not only is it important for you to understand what is happening in your portfolio, what is happening in your company, but why do you see certain trends, right? So the descriptive part is where you just see your dashboards, but the diagnostic part is where you start slicing and dicing through data, right? Now you understand why do you see certain kinds of trends and results. What you then get into is, how do I change them? What is it that I have to do to improve my performance, right? Do I segment my customers? Do I improve the service of my customers? And all these things, right? Now, keeping all these things in mind, how is it that you're going to do all this, right? So this looks good in ink, but how is it that you're going to do this? So what I'm going to do very quickly over the next 10 minutes is take you through a journey that would most likely be anyways being adopted in your organization, and I'm going to run through a simple profitability analysis, and I'm going to tell you how is it that you can use different factors to analyze your data, and how is it that you can use those factors to basically see how changes can be made in the future. Okay, so this is basically the product that we are talking about today, which is SAS Visual Analytics. What SAS Visual Analytics basically is an interface that business users can use to analyze their data, right? So what I'm going to do today is quickly pick up a table, right? So this table basically contains all the data that an organization would have. So if you could see, I have different line items which basically are talking about the different products that I have to offer, time dimension variables, and the geographies that I operate in. If I scroll down a little, I can see that I have information like expenses, revenue, and profit, and all those things. To start with, what I want to understand first is, how is this organization doing? So I'm going to pick up a few measures, which is profit, revenue, and expenses, and plot this over a period of time, right? As soon as I plot this on a graph, what I can clearly see is, beyond a certain point in time, my profit started dipping, right? Now this is where I now need to concentrate on and understand why do I see, or this is where the descriptive part ends and you're now getting into the ad hoc analysis part. So here I'm going to only select these data points and only concentrate on them. What I want to do next is the drill down approach, the ad hoc analysis part, wherein I'm going to quickly create a hierarchy, wherein I'm going to take my different lines of business, product lines, and region, and I'm going to replace the transaction year with the hierarchy that I've just built, right? So as soon as I do that, what I can clearly see is that my major line of business is where my losses are. When I drill down into the major line of business, what I can see is my product line 1 is where the cause of concern is. And within product line 1, if I drill down further, I can understand that my west region is not performing as well, right? Now from here, what I need to do is understand what is it that is causing this impact, right? Why do I see these trends? Is where I get into understanding the different variables that I have and how is it that they impact my profit. Because I'm doing a profitability analysis, what I've quickly done is build a correlation matrix between my variables, right? So it's a matrix which gives you all your measures on both the axes. Because I'm concentrating on profit, all I need to do is look at the darker shaded tiles where I'm saying that the correlation between my X and Y variable is the most, right? Now there are some intuitive, pieces here like employees. Obviously your employees will impact your profit, your expenses, your loss rates. But what is more interesting is this part, right? Wherein my profit also has a very strong relationship with my satisfaction rating. Right now, the satisfaction rating is where the customer is feeding in you inputs and telling you that, hey, I'm not happy with your product, and that somehow is impacting your profit. Now, this is where I have basically derived an insight that, there is a impact on profit on my satisfaction rating. So what I'm going to do is quickly forecast my profit, and because I have gained this insight that satisfaction rating is taking an impact, I'm going to use this as an underlying factor. Right? When I use this as an underlying factor, what I can then do is do a scenario analysis. Now, I can clearly see that there was a certain point in the past where my profit or my revenues were doing extremely well, right? Which has dipped over the last few years, and what could be causing that impact is the impact that I see here as well, where my satisfaction rating has also dipped considerably, right? So what I want to do is I want to go back to that level, and to go back to that level, I'm going to say that I want to increase my profit on a year-on-year basis by 10%. Now, that's a statement that I can make, but how do I go there? How do I ensure that I incur this 10% increase is where I'm going to apply this, and I'm going to see an effect on my satisfaction rating, which basically says that if you want to increase your profit by 10%, you have to ensure that your satisfaction rating goes up from 69% to 72%, right? How do you do that? Maybe deploy a better CRM system, maybe go back to your sales, maybe go back to your services. But what you have done in the last 5 minutes is understood what is going wrong in your portfolio, where it's going wrong, why is it that it went wrong, what are the factors that was impacting it, and how do you ensure that you change those factors to basically get out a result that you really need, right? Now, having kept this in mind, so this is something that an analyst or maybe a user would do, and but he has to finally take it to the business leaders, the strategists. So what you can quickly do is all the insights that we've just built can be plotted on a simple dashboarding layer, wherein I can create a view where now let it be the CFO, the CEOs, the product heads, the marketing heads can just quickly navigate through this and understand what's happening, right? So in the same way, I can actually go and understand what is it that was impacting. So if I select a particular point in time, I can clearly see the same insights that we had drawn earlier. I can see that my loss rates have increased considerably. I can see it across different regions. I can see it across different states. And I can see it across different cities as well, right? Now, what we also have included are the strategic insights that we had built, the correlation metrics that we had built, and the insights that we had derived out of these metrics and put it on a forecasting layer as well, right? So this is how simple it is, and this is where we are saying that it's a pure business users product. It does not require any technical or SaaS know-how. It integrates with your system, and a simple drag and drop can just ease the entire process for you to do data analysis, right? So with this, I would come to an end to my presentation. In case you have any questions, we are actually based here for the entire day. We have our booth right at the back. Please feel free to come and speak with us, and maybe we can share our thoughts related to your industry as well, right? Thank you.